guys, welcome to Game Sandwich. I am John, that's Kalo, and that is Aiden. We're here to review all of the big console platforms for the year 2024. This time we are talking PlayStation. It's been a very, I don't know, can't really even say up and down year for this platform. It's just been a weird year in video games in general, I think. To start this off, Kevin, what is just one sentence? How would you describe PlayStation in 2024?
I'm going to use two words here and call it a down year by every metric, but I'll expand on that later.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that. Aiden, how are you feeling about PlayStation's year?
I feel like they're kind of on the up and up, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, well,
I
so
like what they've done,
okay, all right, I'll give you that.
minus the PS5 Pro.
Well, that will definitely be on our list of things. What I've done is I've gone through and I have accumulated, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8 of the biggest stories in PlayStation this year that I could find. At the end, if I've forgotten anything, I'll, of course, let you guys chime in. But for you guys watching at home, be sure to let us know in the comments your biggest thoughts about PlayStation in 2024, your likes, your dislikes, and just give us your thoughts on how you think what's 2025 look like for PlayStation? Because, like I said, this was a weird year for them. Let's start off. Let's not get off. We don't want to be demonetized. The biggest story for PlayStation in 2024, there's no doubt about it. You cannot. There's nothing else that could even come close to the biggest story. Is that of Concord? We were told that PlayStation had acquired this new studio called Firewalk Studios. They were making the next big first-person shooter that was gonna kind of spearhead PlayStation's live service effort. Like, this was gonna be the next big thing. It was in development for about 8 years, and right now what I could find is that it was an estimated cost of $400 million to make that, and that's not including advertising. That might not even be including Sony purchasing Firewalk Studios. The game released in August, and 10 days later, it was taken offline. And since then, we now know that Concord will never be coming back, and Firewalk Studios was permanently shut down. This
Don't
was...
forget the player count that peaked at almost 700.
Yeah, that's on Steam. We should note that.
Yeah.
The Steam numbers were abysmal. Pretty much when this game was announced, I looked at it and I was like, okay, it could be interesting, but it wasn't really capturing me at that point. I think that's how a lot of people felt. That reveal cinematic that they had really didn't capture what the game itself would be. Kevin, what were your thoughts with Concord before it released? Like, just the lead up to launch.
I kind of figured, just looking at it, like you said, with the cinematic, why? Why are we here? The bootleg Guardians of the Galaxy accusations were thrown or like all over the place. And to even say before we got gameplay, it just, again, nothing stood out. Nothing grabbed me and said, all right, this is the next big game of the year. And this also follows suit in their recent live service kind of push, or what then was a push there. I don't know. It just had a bad taste since the start.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of people who were saying that the characters were very generic. It was very Guardians of the Galaxy inspired. There was a lot that going into the first beta, which was the only time I ever played it, I definitely I wasn't too impressed by the world. That's, as a fan of Overwatch, like I am, I play a lot of it. I'm really invested into that world and its characters. Concord never had an interesting world or interesting characters. Aiden, what were your thoughts going into that first beta, let's say, where you and I actually streamed it for a little bit?
Yeah, we streamed it together, and we, to my knowledge, has both had the same thoughts on it because immediately after you and I were agreeing that it just had nothing that made it stand out in the slightest.
Mm-hmm.
It was overall just a very cookie cutter, like a cookie cutter hero shooter that nobody really could have cared about. I mean, none of the characters had a backstory that people could connect with. None of them had any cool abilities that people loved that stood out. It didn't even have a good mechanic
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah, there was nothing really special about it. Now, that's not to say that the game was bad by any means. It was playable. Like I said, you and I, we only played or at least I only played in the first beta. And it was functional. It worked. It did what it wanted to. It's just that this was a full price game at launch. And when you have Destiny, which is under the PlayStation umbrella now, which is free to play. You have Overwatch, which is free to play. Fortnite, Call of Duty, all these other games that, even though Call of Duty is a full price title, that is one of the biggest games in the industry. Everyone goes to that game to play it because that is comfort food. For a new IP coming in with all these generic characters, and when when you're only getting Concord was only being described as an Overwatch clone, a Destiny Crucible clone. There just was no way that it could overcome those discussions, and it immediately just came out flat. I remember Aiden put out an article at the time that Squirrel with a Gun that released at the same time was sitting at a higher concurrent player number count than Concord was on Steam. Obviously, we don't know what the numbers were on PlayStation because they don't show those numbers, but the very fact that they took the game off after 10 days, like, that's not just a Steam issue. That's PlayStation as well, not doing anywhere close to what they wanted. When they took it off, I had this feeling that I was like, I just don't really think that it can come back. I mean, there were people that were saying, oh, they put so much money into it, they have to bring it back. They have to make it free to play. But now we know that's not happening. Kevin, what do you want to see going forward from PlayStation? How do they learn from the Concord debacle disaster? Because this is one of the biggest failures in gaming ever, I would say.
Yeah, that is no stretch of the word there. Concord, I feel as if it released, let's just say, 15 years ago, or around when Overwatch was picking up at first. I'm not saying it would have beat it, but it would have stood a chance. Now, moving forward, I think with games, and we're going to talk about it no doubt, games like Astrobot releasing later in the year to pretty decent numbers, I think moving forward for PlayStation, if they want to revisit, I mean, we didn't get Fair Games yet, did we? I think that's coming.
That's still coming, yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I just think, and they've wisened up here and said we're not gonna do too much of that moving forward. Just release a decent game. It doesn't have to be a live service game either. If we're gonna do another Astrobot, if you want to release a smaller, like there was a Venom spin-off game planned, release that. Let's not do these live service games anymore. We got enough of them, and if you do happen to release one, Aiden brought up the mechanics here. Make sure it has a good mechanic. Make sure the characters are likable, or, I don't know, relatable, whatever you want to call it. You know, just resonate with your audience. PlayStation is known for their single-player games, and if you're gonna sit here and say, we don't have a Bloodborne, we don't have a Jak and Daxter, we don't have a Sly Cooper, I think we need more of those games.
A revisit to some of the games that need to be brought back, not a Last of Us or a Horizon remake / remaster, right? Aiden, we are you a Destiny fan by any chance?
No.
No? Okay. I was gonna
I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain
That's
why
fine.
I'm not.
That's fine. I don't care about Destiny either. It's fine. But we know that Destiny is making Marathon, and Sony directly went after Bungie to bring them onto the team to work with their live service development. We've seen The Last of Us factions be closed down. There was a Spider-Man live service game that was already shut down. Are you worried at all for the future with games like Fair Games and Marathon now that we've seen Concord have its issues as well as all these other live service games under PlayStation?
I think honestly, live service is not the way to go with the future. I really don't. I mean, Kevin took the words out of my mouth by saying that like we need more games like Bloodborne and Astrobot and all that, and like more stuff like Jack and Daxter. Like PlayStation really does shine at first person games. Like well, not first person, but one single player games. And so really I think it shows that the player base wants more of those. Like and really, I mean, in recent news, we have X Defiant now dropping out. We also had, like, there's that Fragpunk game. I know that's not PlayStation, but that one might not stand a chance either. Like, live service, I feel like, yes, there's a lot of stuff business wise that makes sense about it, but from a player perspective, like most people hate it. Most people hate the idea of having to pay for stuff that you should be able to unlock for free.
We have to be coming up close now on 10 years of Destiny. And Destiny was the game that really launched off the live service initiative for games. And since then, we have seen that really to be successful in this area, you have to be at the top. You can't be just a middling game that has a decent following and community. You have to be Fortnite, you have to be Call of Duty, Overwatch, like whatever area you're at, you have to be the best to succeed in this area. It is a win or you're out situation, and that's why we have seen a lot of games fail in this area. All right, well, let's move on from Concord because honestly, every time we bring it up, I just want to forget it. I wanted to forget about it at the time. I was tired of hearing about it. Let's get on to some more successful things. While PlayStation didn't really have many exclusives released this year outside of Concord, they had two big ones, and they're in the Game of the Year considerations for the Game Awards coming up here. We have Astrobot and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I know that's made by Square Enix, but it is a PlayStation console exclusive, so I'm including it. At the moment, it's a PlayStation game in my eyes. Aiden, I know you are a big Final Fantasy fan. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, what are your thoughts on it?
That it deserves Game of the Year.
Okay.
That is my ultimate thought on it. They took the original game and they have elevated it to a new level. I absolutely loved it. The only negative thing I will say about it is I did not like Zach's role in it. I mean, you've been streaming Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, you know Zach Fair. He does play more of a role in Rebirth than he did in the original game, but I still feel like his role wasn't enough. I feel like they should have included him a lot more.
Okay.
If they had just given him maybe an extra hour of gameplay, I would have been very satisfied with that.
Cool. Having not played the game, I have no context for that, so we're just gonna move on here. Kevin, Astrobot, have you played it?
Yes, I have.
Oh, it's so good, right? Tell me about Astrobot.
It is what I would like to call a celebration, and that's what they've been doing recently, a celebration of PlayStation's history, but embracing the future here. I think the little nods to the different franchises, like a Bloodborne, like a Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, you name it, it's in there. Even down to like some minute stuff that I haven't even heard of.
Except Final Fantasy.
Except Final Fantasy, which, yeah. Do with that what you will.
Yeah.
But I think what this shows you, how, regardless, we're going to be talking about the big three over the next few weeks. You can have a disaster that is Concord, but then you can have a Game of the Year contender a few months later in Astrobot, and it's astounding to me. First, shout out to Team Asobi here. Amazing job. The game looks beautiful, by the way. I mean, the way it plays is smooth. You're taking advantage of the DualSense. I also like how they're incorporating the PlayStation console itself as the little spaceship and all the little nods to like the X's, the triangle button, all that. It's perfect. It's just a game you can have for a weekend, play it, get through it, enjoy it. And if you want, they're adding more DLC, so go revisit it down the line.
Yeah, Astrobot is great in my opinion. It for the games that the Game Awards have on its Game of the Year list, that would be my personal choice for Game of the Year. Um, Maybe not my overall Game of the Year, but it's definitely in the conversation. I'm right there with you. I love all the nods to PlayStation history, both first party and third party, except for Final Fantasy, because apparently they just decided to leave Cloud out for whatever reason. Um, yeah, all the nods to the past there. When the PlayStation 5 first came out and Astro's Playroom was the free game that was available with the console, I loved it. I fell in love. I was like, this is great. This is charming. It's not the most complicated 3D platformer out there. Like, it's very much just move forward, jump over things. It's very easy, very simple, but it's charming. It's got that Nintendo kind of platformer charm. It might not stand next. Well, it might not topple over like a Mario game, but it stands up there with him. It is very good. I have nothing but praise for that. I just, I came away from Astrobot thinking like, I just want more. I just want Team Asobi to keep doing this. This is the third Astrobot game. The first one was a VR game, second one was Playroom, and now this one. I just want them to keep doing this. I want this to be the PlayStation mascot. I don't care about Sackboy. Joel and Ellie, love them, but they're not great mascots. Like, this is the PlayStation mascot for me going forward. Alright, so now that we've got Astrobot and Final Fantasy VII, let's do a little bit more looking back, because just this week we have the 30th anniversary of the PlayStation 1. And you're thinking, John, we're talking about 2024, not 1994. Well, PlayStation 5 implemented a new, well, kind of a new way to start up your console where it plays the original PlayStation 1 reverb and booming intro that was on that original console. And I gotta tell you, I have restarted my console so many times over the last couple days just to hear that nostalgia. I love it so much. We also got some themes on all of the past consoles that you can implement. Right now I'm hopping between the PS1 and the PS2. Kevin, what do we have to do to make sure that we keep this opening forever? Because this is just a temporary thing, PlayStation have said. What do we have to do to make sure that we keep this?
I honestly have no clue, and for what it's worth, I'm not trying to bring up the console war problem here. Xbox releases themes for the Series X, and they stay there. Out of all things for PlayStation to do, having released a 30th anniversary console, controller, and portal, it's like, wouldn't you think, like, these themes, like, they uploaded them. They're out there. I'm pretty sure it's as simple as flipping that button to be like, yeah, they can stay there. I don't want to get too tinfoil hat here, but is this their way of gauging, like, hey, maybe this game is worth a remaster in the future? Like, oh, they're talking about the PS2. What games are they talking about? They're talking about the PS1. Are there any titles there we can dip into? I like the execution, but it's the fact nothing is staying. That's what bothers me.
Yeah, that is a problem. Aiden, what are your thoughts about the 30th anniversary celebration with PlayStation right now?
Oh, I'm loving it so far. That update, the nostalgic feel that I felt, it was so amazing. Unlike you, I'm not switching between them. I am very hard set on keeping my PS2. So my PS2 theme is staying, and I don't know what we need to do to keep it, but I definitely want to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I just love seeing all the blocks sitting on top, overshadowing everything.
Yeah.
It's just so reminiscent of my childhood.
Yeah, after they implemented the opening, I actually went in and I made an article for the top 5 console startup sounds ever. And
Oh, I saw that.
it was so good, like just going back and seeing all these classic ones. And the towers in the PS2, if you didn't know, the towers that come up when you start it are actually connected to the memory card that are inserted into your console. So I always thought that was really cool if they could implement that into like the PS5 nowadays. If they could, I don't think they could the way themes work now, but if they could just find a way to like put up a tower and then have like a picture of the game that it was representing, that would be really cool. It's a bit weird to me that Astrobot, for being a game that is so focused on PlayStation's past, wasn't really connected to the 30th anniversary at all. It just came out, I want to say 3 months beforehand. They just kind of threw it out there. They're like, yeah, hey, this is one of the best games of the year. It celebrates our history, but we're not going to connect it to our 30-year anniversary. I always thought that was very weird and kind of a missed opportunity. Kind of staying on the same track as the 30th anniversary, we have the PlayStation 5 Pro, which recently released. That did get a 30th anniversary edition. It is very expensive. Only, from what I've seen, I don't have it myself because I'm not dropping $700 on it. But from what I've seen, people are saying only get it if you are the top of the line person with the best TV and you notice all the little differences in graphical fidelity. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the PS5 Pro?
No, I've bagged on that console enough. I agree. Didn't really see the need for it right now. I always draw up the comparison to the PS4 Pro. At that time, everyone's chasing 4K. Everyone wants all that fun stuff. And at the time, it made sense. Right now, $700 price tag. Aside from the limited stuff, like the special edition one we're talking about, I just, why? And even then, there was a story a few weeks back that some games ran worse on that console, like Silent Hill 2. And it's like, okay, are we releasing a $700 console months before, let's just say, Ghost of Yotai? That's the one game I've seen everyone say, oh, that's what you get it for. Why are we doing it now then? Like, is there really anything out there? And that Jim Ryan, or it wasn't Jim Ryan, he's stuck in my head. Who was the guy that did the presentation? His name is escaping me right now.
Oh, Mark Cerny.
Mark Cerny. He was doing that presentation, and when he showed the side-by-side of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, where he focused in on the tree, I was like, dude, first of all, shame on PlayStation. You're showing it through a compressed stream. No one's really gonna know what's going on there. And, like, even if it's compressed, did we notice anything? Like, am I blind? I need my glasses. I know that. Mm-hmm. But, like, why? That's my big question around this. Why?
Yeah, that is the thing, is like these kind of upgrades, I'm like, I would have to see the games on the same TV side by side in person to like really notice these differences. I'm playing on my PS5 right now and I'm like, this looks great to me. I don't feel like games are taking advantage of the full power of the PS5 as it is right now, so the Pro just never made much sense to me. Aiden, what are your thoughts on the PS5 Pro?
I agree with both of you. I don't really see the need for the PS5 Pro right now. I mean, this is coming from someone who has one. I don't see the need for it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, and Kevin and I, we made a whole video about, like, is it even worth it? And ultimately decided that really, you can just get a PC for a similar cost. Maybe, instead of 700, you're spending 900, but you're still getting something that has more power and something that can handle games for years to come. So really, you may as well just drop the money on a PC at that point, and then you get a wider variety of games. And I mean, PlayStation games are just going to be coming to PC for the most part anyway. So
yeah,
it's not like you're going to be missing out.
I know they would never do it, but what I would have liked to see is that if they're gonna put out a top tier console, they're like, hey, this is for the very best graphics, the performance and everything. I would want it to be more like Xbox, where the developers don't have to update their games to take advantage of it. Where the Xbox Series X, for example, will go back in 360 games that it's playing on backwards compatibility. It just automatically will make the game run better. I don't know how they do it. I'm not a tech wizard or anything, but everything I've heard is that the console just does that itself. having all these teams have to go back to their games and update them to get the best out of it. And as you said, Kevin, current games aren't even getting the most out of it right now. It's just, I don't know. It's a wasted opportunity.
They also don't include the plastic stand. That is like out of
No
everything
stand.
that's wrong with that, they don't include the stand.
Yeah,
What is that about?
That is the smallest thing. That is the most business thing ever. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, we have to save $10 in our production costs. Like, are you kidding me? Fuck
Hey,
off.
they have a stand.
That
They
little
just have tiny little plastic nubs that you put
little
in
legs.
the-
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's still a stand, damn it.
Yeah. All right, time to go back into a little bit of bad news, as we know gaming is in just a tumultuous spot at the moment. PlayStation, not including the firewall closure, because I couldn't find the numbers on that, they had over 1,100 layoffs this year. A lot of that was focused on Destiny. They also closed down the PlayStation London studio. They closed down a mobile studio that I didn't even know about. They closed them down alongside Firewalk. Just a lot of layoffs this year. Later on, when we talk about Xbox, we'll go even further into this, I'm sure. But a lot of layoffs, and as a result of this, from Bungie, Bungie no longer is kind of own thing working under PlayStation. PlayStation is taking over more control of Bungie and how they operate. Kevin, I don't know if you're a big Destiny fan or anything, but what kind of impact do you think that has on Bungie in particular going forward?
So I used to play Destiny 1 a lot back in the day. Haven't really touched the franchise since. I do think in the grand scheme, whenever you look at the big stories and where the layoffs come from and where this X, Y, and Z, we seen it with X Defiant just the other day. It's people gambling on such an uncertainty within live service games. And for PlayStation to come in to Bungie, it's more of, what's that saying? Too many hands in the soup spoil it, or in the kitchen, or something
Too many
like
cooks
that.
in the kitchen.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, and we've seen what happens when that corporate overlord takes the wheel. It happened in Concord. It's the same thing here. The only thing with Destiny, it has that established fan base. People are playing it, but how sustainable? That's what I'm trying to get at here. How sustainable this all is, I don't think it goes on for much longer, at least in a correct form.
Yeah, Aiden, give me a look at how you see Bungie changing going forward. Like, do you see a future where maybe they make a single player game? Maybe Marathon never comes out at all? Like, how does PlayStation taking over more control of Bungie affect them?
I see it as a means of maybe focusing more on Destiny to make more DLC to make it better. I see kind of a means of that, but also I do see a focus on them going, oh, let's steer away from live service. Let's make a single player experience or like a co-op experience that people want. That way, and give us something more like how they used to with like Halo and everything. Halo with 343 Studios and Bungie working together, it was really good. They had a really cohesive story that everybody loved. Everybody loved playing co-op in it. Give us that. Bring that back. If they can bring back that nostalgic feel of like in Destiny, or if they can just make their own new thing, I think, I just don't think that the live service angle is going to end up being good for them. I really don't.
It will be interesting to see if there is a future where Destiny, or not Destiny, if Bungie actually makes a new IP. Because even Marathon's their original IP. That's from before Halo. Like, that's not something new. That's something they're just bringing back from the dead. I don't see them ever leaving the live service area. Like I said, Destiny was kind of the kickoff for live service games about a decade ago. I just don't. I don't really pay attention to that. I love Halo. I never got into Destiny. I find it to be not that fun, but whatever. All right, let's finish off our review here talking about exclusives because we already discussed Astrobot and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I should have brought up Silent Hill 2 as well because that is also a console exclusive. But probably the most interesting aspect of all this is we had Helldivers 2 and Concord both release on Steam at the same time as their releases on PlayStation. In the past, we've seen PlayStation be very, oh, this is only ours. Like, they go out, they make their deals with Square Enix, which actually got shut down this year. They're no longer making Square Enix console exclusives going forward. The state of PlayStation exclusives going forward, how do we see that happening? Because this year, we saw a Horizon game. Granted, it was Lego Horizon Adventures, released same day on the Nintendo Switch. We've seen Xbox games come over the PlayStation. Kevin, do you ever see a scenario where a PlayStation game, besides MLB, something that is controlled by PlayStation, do you ever see something like that being put out on Xbox? Because we're starting to see the move towards a more open PlayStation game experience for everyone.
That is such a difficult thing to navigate because we're seeing it, and I don't want to talk too much about it here because this is PlayStation, but Xbox is porting over some of their live service games like Sea of Thieves. We've seen Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, all those games go over. They found success. In the same vein, though, PlayStation, they've ported over God of War Ragnarok. Spider-Man 2 is coming to the PC. If not, it's come out by now. I don't think, let's just say Ghost of Yotai while it's on my mind. I don't see it going over to an Xbox. I don't see it. Lord knows what the Switch 2 is or what could it possibly run at this point. I just don't see that happening. What I do see, and I've been very adamant about this, if they're gonna do this whole we're gonna push into the PC market, I do think we live in a world where a PlayStation launcher could exist. Again, you negate that need on Steam to put in your PSN account because you'd be signed in to that launcher. I think that could happen. I would like that to happen, mainly because, if the PS6 rolls around and it's $800, I'll just get it on PC. I can wait for the time to exclusivity to run out. But yeah, I don't see... I'm looking at their titles. I don't see anything coming over to Xbox. It would be a cold day in hell to get Kratos on an Xbox console.
We'll talk about it later, but we may get the inverse of that where Master Chief comes onto the PlayStation at some point. Yeah, I never really thought about the PlayStation launcher thing. I think that would be such a misstep for them considering all the hubbub we had this year about... oh, crap. Aiden, the game that you play... that you write about a lot. Oh, man.
Helldivers 2.
Helldivers 2, thank you. Helldivers 2 had such a big... there was so much discord around the having to sign into a PSN account, and now there's countries that just can't access that game because they don't have access to PSN. That would be quite the misstep, in my opinion. Aiden, what are your thoughts on PlayStation's exclusives this year? Because, like I said... this is new for PlayStation. We've seen Xbox, they've been in the PC market forever now. I mean, they're Windows, of course, but they're actually putting Xbox games out day one on console, or on PC. Now that we see PlayStation doing that, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I would like to say that we live in an era where the console wars eventually just end and nobody gives a shit anymore. I would love to say that we live in that era. I don't think that PlayStation is... I don't think Sony's ever going to say, oh yes, we need to have our games be ported over to Xbox. I don't really think that's ever going to happen. I do think that there's going to be more of a push to get everything on PC, though, because a lot of gamers in general are going the route of navigating to PC and sticking to PC just because of the multitude, the absolutely massive amount of games that are on there. You have the entire Steam marketplace, which is bigger than both Xbox and PlayStation combined, in terms of games. So really, I see everything from PlayStation probably navigating to PC eventually. I mean, we already know Ghost of Tsushima is going, like, went there. It went there on May 16th. So I guarantee you Ghost of Yotai is going to go there. And I guarantee you every other PlayStation exclusive is just going to be timed for, like, PlayStation and then hit PC.
I I do want to know what the Lego Horizon Adventures sales on Switch are like. I think that would
Yeah.
play a big impact for how we know how PlayStation exclusives going forward will act. But we haven't heard any talk about it. It might have completely bombed on Switch and we never see that kind of move again. Regardless, PlayStation in 2024, I think I agree with Kevin that it's been kind of a disappointing year. The Concord thing, you just can't overlook that. That was such a massive mess up. There were a lot of down points in this year. And while we did get Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Astrobot and Silent Hill 2, which I'll just full out say I was completely wrong on Silent Hill 2. I came into this year thinking, oh, that game's gonna burn. Like, that is a dangerous game to be playing with Konami at the helm. But it came out and everyone likes it. This year really feels like it's just a weird transition point for PlayStation. We don't really know what's coming in the future, but outside of the Insomniac leaks, we know a Wolverine game is coming at some point. We know we have Marathon. Ghost of Yotai was revealed just a few months ago, but I guess me personally, I just didn't really care about Ghost of Tsushima, so I don't care. It's a weird transition period for a lot of gaming companies. Aiden, out of 10, how would you score a review of PlayStation in 2024?
I'd give them a solid 6.
6?
They've had a lot of downhill stuff. The layoffs really don't help, but they do have some major pillars that they can stand on. They do have Astrobot, they have Final Fantasy. They have some good stuff to look forward to as well. So, I mean, but like you said, I think it's more of like a turning point for them. And I think that really Sony has an opportunity now to just listen to people. And like Kevin said, take the opportunity, see what people are talking about. And if they can just turn it, there you go. Have a focus on what the players want, and then they'll do great.
For sure. Kevin, what would you score PlayStation's 2024?
I would say a 6 out of 10. And I think it's the weakest of the three, but there's a technicality over one of them. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact Jim Ryan left. The new leadership is now trying to course correct a lot of mistakes. And we're seeing it now where it's like this year probably would have been filled with all those live service games, and we would have been getting a lot more this year. Jim Ryan leaves, they pivot the strategy, it's suddenly empty. I do think next year is a lot more promising. I think there's some big games coming. I would like to think they take this 30th celebration and they're like, hey, here's Sly Cooper Collection, like a newer version on the PS5. The games actually, I think 2 and 3, along with Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy, is coming to PlayStation Plus, Essential, Premium, whatever tier you want to call it. They're testing the waters. At least I keep telling myself that. Along with the Bloodborne stuff, they, at the end of that trailer, it was like, it's about persistence or something like that. So, tinfoil hat from now on. Let's just ride that one out.
Yeah, I would go a little bit lower on my score. I'd probably give him a 5 out of 10 because I love Astrobot, and I'm very happy to see a lot of people love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Silent Hill 2. And those games matter. Like, let's not... Those are exclusives for PlayStation. You cannot play them anywhere else. That matters. That is a big pillar for PlayStation to stand on. They still have the exclusives, even in a down year for their console releases. But man, there was a lot of bad stuff in there as well that really drags it down. I would give it a 5 out of 10. But I'm going to throw this off over to our viewers. Hey, thanks for hanging around. That was pretty cool of you. Be sure to join the conversation in the comments below. Subscribe to us to see our future videos. And go ahead and hit that link in our description to join our Discord, and you can talk with us in real time. I'm John. That's Kevin. That's Aiden. We will catch you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's debate or want your weekly dose of gaming news content, consider subscribing to Game Sandwich for content just like this. And we'll see you guys next time.